Act, okay? And you need to keep renewing. It's not too expensive. You'll keep renewing once in a few years, but that renewal, all of that becomes very relevant, because I'm seeing that many people miss that out because they're not aware of it, okay? And so once these registrations and everything is in place, especially, you also need to make sure tax registrations are one, labor registrations and one, operational side registrations. You need to get a pollution control board certification. So some of these are all things that you need to get proper legal advice uh, with a proper lawyer, to make sure that you are not missing out on anything. And then you go about, your, if you set up your company, again the compliances will be there in terms of the ROC, the filings. You need to have board meetings, you need to have the minutes. A lot of compliances are there, so it's good to get a proper professional, and then get that part of it set up. So I'll move on to the next topic. When you also, because one of the other areas where I see there is an issue is, say, 3 or 4 friends come together to set up business, all young entrepreneurs in India. There is a lot of energy, lot of people coming out from colleges are setting up very good ideas, innovation, good new ideas are coming up, and they're coming together and setting up companies. So what happens when everything is going well? It's good. When things are doing very well also, sometimes greed comes in, and then there are disputes. So, or if the company is not doing well, so the company goes into losses, then what happens? Then also there are disputes. So when people are coming together with an idea that, you will do this, you'll be able to set up a company and take it forward, and then you really want to go an IPO, all your great plans, all of that, I would advise you get into a proper founders agreement. It's called a founders agreement or a shareholders agreement, for the reason that that actually gives the framework for how you need to go about your business. Who's going to play what role, how much is the percentage of shareholding, or your partnership percentages, who's going to get how much, is it 50-50, is it 33-33-33%, how do you, or 20-20 if there are 5 people, so how do you actually split it up? And then who gets what profits, who puts in money? That is also very important, because it's not everybody may be capable of putting in the capital. Some may be capable of bringing in technology, others may be capable of funding it. So how do you actually capture all of that? So the roles, responsibilities, and then who will be on the board, who will be responsible for writing the checks and the operational things, who will hire the people. So all of that role clarity in terms of percentages, shareholding, how the company has to be governed, all of that is generally captured in a founders agreement. And we see that as a common, one of the common areas of mistake is people don't have this kind of a framework, a founders agreement or a shareholders agreement. Even in large companies, sometimes these are missed out, and you generally realize when there are disputes, because not everybody will be able to, say, you set up a company and think that, okay, I will grow it for 4 years, and then I will see, bring in somebody or sell it out to somebody or whatever. So whoever has joined in your journey from day one may not be there with you for more than 1 year, or they may not, many people leave their employment and then come and set up the entrepreneurs, they set up their own businesses. So for those people, what happens, it is very difficult to sustain without proper income or a salary, and therefore not everybody may want to continue in the journey. And if they do not want to continue in the journey, then all these disputes come in, because then there will be like, why did I give you a 50%, why did I give you a 33%? So it's very hard to buy back those shares also. You cannot do that, because it's a property right, and whoever continue, whether they do anything or not in the company, whether they contribute anything or not, they will continue to hold the shareholding. And then there are disputes coming up. How do you, I want him out of my company, he's not doing anything, he's not contributing. So all of these things come up. So it's better to have a proper framework, a well drafted founders agreement, where all the obligations are clearly laid out. Who owns the IP generally belongs to the company, but if there is somebody who's contributing IP to the company, then is there anything you're remunerating? Are you paying them anything higher? How is the decision making process going to be run in the company? And then what are the profit sharing ratios? Also, how do you give an exit at a later point when you're selling the company? So all of these rights are crystal clear, and then you'll be able to establish the framework for you to go ahead. So you don't need to worry about disputes inter se, and you'll be able to focus on building the company. So this is one area I would strongly urge people to think about, and then make sure that you get proper advice to be able to get these in place. Moving on to the other area where I see generally neglected is, say, when you are entering into customers, you're bringing in customers into the company, whoever is engaging. So it's very important to have proper payment terms. Will you get paid within 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Because if the payments are delayed, then there is a huge cash flow issue, and that's where startups kind of generally falter, because we are seeing a lot of people, all of the business is generally run on POs, purchase orders or general terms and conditions. Sometimes we've also seen all these payment terms and all are only engaged through WhatsApp messages, WhatsApp or oral communication, only POs. So POs is okay, purchase orders is okay, but you need to have proper terms and conditions before you do POs, and then make sure the terms are all clear. Sometimes there is no dispute resolution mechanism, and then the delivery timelines, all of these are very important. And we've also seen where the companies mature and then the businesses mature, proper customer agreements, say master service agreements or your customer contracts, are all properly entered into. That is the most critical part, I would say, for you to safeguard the revenue. And then to safeguard your business is something you need to spend your time and effort there, so that proper agreements are entered into. And you should also have, you need to understand if there is any kind of a unilateral termination clause, or when you build, say, a particular product or a software or anything for a customer, who owns the IP, because there are many disputes which come up after that. And sometimes if the payment is not made, can you withhold the IP? What is it that you have a recourse if, say, they don't really pay you? So, and where do you go? And where do you resolve, or how do you recover the money? That's also very important. So, and we see these issues more often than not in international contracts also, not just domestic. Domestic has its own issues, but all the more when you go international, it is very important, because it's you will not be even be aware of how to proceed. We've had our clients, say, who set up businesses in Dubai, and they have been able to get customers there. But if somebody
Madam, you are in mute.
oh, how did it go into mute? I didn't do anything. Okay. So even especially when they're exporting even to large countries like US or other places also, you need to really safeguard your payments. So it's very important to have proper agreements. Otherwise, you'll later realize how much it is expensive to be able to go and recover your amounts. So that is an area you need to pay full attention. The other area I would like to touch upon is intellectual property. Okay, this is extremely critical, especially for those companies which have products and which are trying to get into this product business. Any kind of a product, it could be, not just software, any kind of a product. What we see, I mean, that some general tips that I would give is, before you say that you have a really good invention, there is some kind of a big idea you come about, and then you found something that you have a solution for. The first thing you need to do is, before you talk to your customers or to your investors or any business partners, collaborations anywhere, you need to have a proper non-disclosure agreement. An NDA is very essential, that whatever you disclose to the other side, you want to make sure that they don't go use your idea or go develop further on it. An NDA is the starting point for all your business. Why is it automatically going into
Ma'am,
mute? Because I'm not doing anything.
yeah, it's audible.
Yeah, just make sure. Um, so you need to make sure that a non-disclosure agreement is signed with even your business partners or anyone that you disclose your business about. Because we are seeing, especially in the startups, when you have a brilliant idea, say you go present it to a large company thinking that they'll become your customer, they easily copy your idea and they will build their own same idea, same product, and then they will go about that business. It's very easy for people to put in money, especially when, because they're much larger, all they need is good ideas, or they try to hire you, or they'll say you come and set up a department here. We have seen many kind of stories like this. So if you want to safeguard your enterprise, you need to make sure you have a non-disclosure agreement. You also need to file for patents or trademarks, copyrights. It's very, very important. So when do you file a patent? You have to make sure that before you say publish, say you are publishing something in a conference, or you are talking to a group of investors or a group of customers. So before you actually reveal your whole business idea or your invention, you need to be very careful, because that itself can come in the way of your patent filing. Because what gets a patent protection is the idea has to be novel, it has to have an inventive step, and an industrial applicability. So the novelty, when say you publish your own paper about your idea, and that comes widely known, then that itself becomes prior art, and you it will not be treated novel. So you need to be very careful what you reveal. And even if you still have to do that, the patent law gives you right to file for a patent protection up to a period of 12 months. Before 12 months, you'll have to file for a patent even on that idea. Otherwise, you lose the right to file for a patent. And I would generally advise, even if you are not ready to file the patent yet, there is something called provisional patent. So you may want to file a provisional patent first, protect your idea. It's not very expensive. You can get a very, simple, quick document, even if you're not fully ready with your invention. For you to get the protection of the law, you can file something with basic information, also a provisional patent, and within 12 months you can file for a complete application, complete patent. So that is something, especially where it is technology heavy, any kind of a good ideas that you have, I would suggest that. And I'll come back to how you can, where you can file all of that. I'll come back to startup registrations and all. And then trademarks is something, your company name or your logo, the color of your the logo, and then the word mark, all of that will require protection. It's called trademark protection. So if you don't have a trademark, somebody can copy the same name of your company and go set up. And we are seeing quite a few, even large companies where they've been there for a long time, same with the same name, somebody sets it up in Gujarat, or somebody sets it up in some other remote corner of the country, and then website will come up. We are also seeing so many people copy the same website, and then they will put up the same terms and conditions. So it's so easy these days to copy on the internet, but you will create confusion and you may lose customers because it's the same kind of a name, same. So to prevent all of that, it's very important that you file for a copyright and a trademark protection, and of course, like I mentioned, patents part of it. So that is something 100% you need to think of. Even if it's a small expense, you need to think of protecting that. Only then you will get a value out of it. And we also seen where it's technology heavy, IP generates a lot of value at a later stage. When you're looking to sell your company, IP can generate hundreds of crores. So if you are able to do that, you'll get a monopoly on it, and commercial value, you can commercially utilize that. So one more area I'll touch upon is the privacy policies, website conditions, terms and conditions, and use. So before you set up, because all these days every business, unless you do digital marketing or you're available online, it's very difficult to scale. So in everything, any kind of business that you set up, it is important to have a presence on the internet. So if that is the case, before you start, launching the website, it is important that you get proper terms and conditions drafted for your product and your web page, and get all the proper terms and conditions. This will generally cover the consumer law, and then the consumer guarantees. How do you deliver the goods? What's your return policy? What are your refunds policy? Privacy, and then what kind of warranties are you giving? All the information, all the privacy laws, all of these limitation of liability. Quite a few areas are generally covered in the website terms and conditions. Have your website terms and conditions, legal disclaimers, and privacy policy. These are the three elements that you need to think of when you're designing your website. Ultimately, before you launch it, you need to have these in place, because every startup wants to go digital these days. And one other area where I would touch upon is, these days, there's a lot of data that you collect from your customers or your employees, or in kind of any kind of data security, because now there is a new law that is coming up, Data Privacy and Protection Act. So digital data privacy is very important. Whatever you collect, you need to take information consents from those individuals, and you need to have a data processing officer. Of course, the law is not yet effective. It has not yet been enforced yet, but the regulations are going to be published very soon, and then it will come into force, is what people are expecting. So maybe by the year end it could become. So one area is, of course, you need to be compliant with that law. The other is also to protect your own data, whatever you're collecting, your own data, especially say you have customer data, or in terms of your employee data. Everything that you do, you need to have proper data protection policies within your organization, so that nothing gets breached and you don't lose critical information at a later point. So when you're engaging employees, it is very important for you to take proper agreements with them, so that all the IP that they develop in India, generally the IP belongs to people whoever developed the IP. So if you have an employee who's working for you, whatever they develop by default belongs to them. So you need to have proper employment agreement where the IP flows to the company, because you're paying them and they're working for you, work for hire. All the IP should flow to the company. So those proper agreements are needed, so that everything comes back to the company. And then within the company, how do you safeguard all of that? There's a source code, or there is some kind of any other proprietary technology, any trade secret, something that is so critical for your business. You need to make sure, because there are multiple cyber security related aspects that are going up. That in the financial world, financial frauds are happening, data is being breached. Data says cyber security has become a major concern. And the only recourse is for you to go file a police complaint, and then the police, how the system works, legal system. So it is better to be preventive and make sure these breaches don't happen, rather than having to go follow up and then file police complaints. So that's an area where I would urge all of you to keep proper paperwork and then safeguards, so that you are able to prevent any of these breaches. A couple of aspects that's very important for all startups is, I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but the government of India has brought in something called a startup registration. The Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, DPIIT, provides these benefits. A lot of benefits are there for startups. So everybody, whoever is, who is eligible for getting a startup recognition, is you should not have been in existence or operation for more than 10 years from the date of incorporation. So if you have not been in existence for more than 10 years, you'll be able to get a startup registration. You should have been incorporated as a private limited company, or a registered partnership, or an LLP. And your annual turnover should not exceed more than 100 crores for any of the financial years since the incorporation. And you should not have been formed by splitting or restructuring an already existing business. And you should not be a subsidiary of a foreign company. And you should also work towards development and improvement of a product process, for generation of employment. So some of the criteria for getting a startup registration, it's not very difficult. Quickly you'll get. A lot of benefits are there if you're a startup, especially on the employment side. A startup is allowed to do self-certification and a compliance with almost 6 labor laws and 3 environmental laws. Very simple online procedure is there. And there'll not be any labor law inspections for a period of almost 5 years. So you get a startup certificate, you'll be able to get that. And even in case of pollution control board and all of those certifications also, you'll be able to get self certification process. Okay, so only random checks would be carried out, and you will not be subject to a lot of the labor laws are not applicable. So that is something you may want to get the benefit of. One area which I was already talking about is that IP protection. So for if you're a startup registered with the DPIIT, you will be able to benefit out of a panel of patent lawyers and facilitators who will help you file the IP applications. They're almost nil cost because they are going to only charge you the statutory fee, and they get paid by the government. So you'll be able to file for your patent protection or a copyright design protection, trademark protection. All of these you will be able to avail the benefits because there are a panel of facilitators. They're all empaneled with the Controller General of Patent Designs and Trademarks, and you'll be able to get those. You can get the rebate, compared to the regular companies and establishments. Startups have separate rate. You'll also be exempt under the tax under Section 80 1AC, and you'll be able to get a 10-year exemption in those financial years. So also it's easy to wind up the company in case the company is not doing very well. You may be able to go for insolvency and bankruptcy, and then you'll be able to get a faster exit if you're a startup registered, and you can be wound up within 90 days after filing an application for insolvency. So quite a few other benefits are there. One more aspect I would like you to urge you to think of is also get an MSME registration, because MSME is again micro, small, medium enterprises. So there is an act called Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006. There are quite a few key benefits for MSMEs. One of the major things is a powerful payments protection mechanism is there. So any buyer who purchases from an MSME, they will have to clear the amounts not later than 45 days from the date of acceptance or deemed acceptance of the goods or services. So if the buyer fails to pay you on time, they will have to pay a compound interest with monthly rest from due date, at least 3 times the RBI bank rate. And this applies notwithstanding anything else to the contrary in the agreement. Also, they will also have to disclose in their audited accounts if there is any outstanding dues to MSMEs in their audit